All right, welcome back. You're still watching Markets at Lunch. Christopher Rieger, who's head of rate strategy at Commerzbank, joins us on the show right now. Christopher, good to have you. There seems to be still a lot of worry about what happens in Spain and in Greece, but it's been going on for a while. What is it that you're factoring in when you're advising clients right now?
Yes, clearly the focus right now is more on Greece than it is on Spain. In Greece, a decision will have to be made over the next couple of weeks because otherwise the country will be running out of money. This week's Eurogroup conference call has not yielded any tangible results. It seems from reading between the lines that the officials will pursue an approach whereby also a buyback will be part of the solution alongside a reduction in interest rates and a stretching of target dates. Overall, this means, should this proposal gain traction, that GGBs, Greek government bonds, could gain after having lost some value in recent weeks. Also, obviously, these buybacks need to be financed, which would be a negative for the ESM or potentially also the EFSF, which will have to issue in order to finance such a buyback.
All right, Christopher, we leave it at that. Thanks very much for joining us and giving us that perspective. Let's touch base with the management of Marico. Chaitanya Deshpande, who's the Executive VP at Marico, joins us on the show right now. Mr. Deshpande, thanks very much for speaking with us. Run us through this quarter in terms of its key highlights, as well as the outlook that you have for the business in terms of sales.
Okay, we've had a reasonably good quarter in terms of top-line growth. Our top line has grown by 19% for the group. We've also had good volume growth. We've grown by about 14% in volume. Of course, part of this is on account of the fact that we've acquired a set of youth brands, which was the erstwhile Paras portfolio with Reckitt Benckiser. That accounted for about 5%. So if you look at volume growth without the acquisition of these brands, it was about 9%. Growth has come from all the three businesses. So we've seen about 19% growth from the India FMCG business, about 16% growth from our international FMCG business, and Kaya has grown by about 38%. So we've seen reasonably good growth all around. You would have seen most FMCG companies reporting growths a shade lower than what was there in the earlier quarter. So there appeared to be a little bit of a slowing down in terms of some conversions that we would get from, let's say, loose oil into packed oil in the case of Parachute, or in the case of Saffola, where we are talking about higher ticket sizes and discretionary spends. The volume growths were a shade lower at about 6%. But we are seeing that, that was a little temporary. Again, if you move into how October has performed, things are looking a little better. So overall, we do believe that, these volume growths would continue into the second half of the year as well. In the domestic business, we've seen growth across all businesses. So whether it's Parachute, Saffola should be coming back in the medium term. Hair oils has shown a good growth. We've launched a few new products. So oats has been doing well. We've launched it nationally. We've taken savory oats national. Very recently, we've launched a range of mueslis as well. In the international business, there has been a little bit of a slower growth in the Middle East and to some extent in Bangladesh, but we believe that in the coming quarters, we should see that growing faster. On the other hand, a territory like Vietnam and the other Southeast Asian business around Malaysia, etc., has been doing well. We're clocking more than 20% growth there.
Having said that, even though your sales numbers look good, what about margins? You have stated in the past that you are preferring growth over margins at this point in time. However, given the kind of cost environment there would be pressure on margins. What's the outlook as far as managing costs is concerned?
Okay, I would say actually in terms of the input costs, we've had a more beneficial quarter. So if you look at our gross margins, they've actually gone up. We've had an expansion in gross margins because coconut oil prices were soft. There was an expansion there, but we have reinvested a lot of that into higher A&P spends during this quarter. So while raw material prices would have come down and gross margins expanded by about 680 basis points, we reinvested about 450 basis points out of that into advertising for new products as well as support for existing brands. And therefore, that is also following, what we had stated earlier about trying to expand current franchises, grow the markets, grow our volumes, rather than looking at expansion of margins in the short term. Going forward, again, it's very, very difficult to predict how raw material prices will move. So for us, essentially, we try and ensure that we make a certain base, gross margins, certain unit margins that are constant or working in a particular band. And we'd rather maintain it that way and try and go for volume growth, so which is getting delivered. So if you look at volume growths during this quarter as well, they've been fairly good in some of the lead brands. So if you look at Parachute Rigids, we grew by about 9%. In the hair oils, we've grown by 20%. Saffola was a little muted during this quarter. It's also got to do a little bit with CSD volumes not taking off. But we expect that to revert over the next couple of quarters.
Right. So what would be the key strategy over the next 2 quarters for you to be able to sustain, as you pointed out, volume growth at these levels, 19-20%, without letting a big compromise come in on margins?
Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of easing on the raw material prices, as compared to last year. So in some of the key SKUs, we could look at temporary reductions in prices, be it in the way of some reduction in the MRP or by way of some certain promotions. So especially in the recruiter brands, where we are looking at price points in the case of Parachute, or in some of the key SKUs of Saffola, we might look at making temporary price reductions. And that will help us to continue grow the franchise and volumes. And we don't anticipate too much of a hit on the margin because there is a slight benign environment in terms of raw material inputs in our case.
The reason I'm questioning you so much on the margin performance is really because, from what the street was expecting, roughly about 100-110 crores, you've delivered a bit lower than that on the bottom line. There could be a concern that while you're looking at top line growth and expanding your base on the top line, there might be a bit of a compromise on the reward that shareholders get in terms of overall profitability. Is that a concern for you as well, or how are you trying to maintain that balance so that, at the end of the day, the growth doesn't come at the cost of your profitability?
Yeah, I understand that, and perhaps maybe this quarter is a shade lower than what the street might have expected. But if you look at the numbers, it's not so much from the operating margin area that we've contracted. If you compare last year, same quarter, we had done about 12.3% in terms of EBITDA margin, which has gone up to 13%, despite the higher investments that we made in advertising. The reason why the bottom line doesn't look the same as what the street may have expected is, A, there's a higher charge of interest, which is on account of the outgoes because of the acquisitions that we'd made in the youth brands. Secondly, the effective tax rate is also higher than perhaps we had expected at the beginning of the year. We were indicating maybe a tax rate of around 22%, and for this quarter it's 25.5%.
Okay.
The reason for that is we've made higher profits in taxable parts of the business. Essentially, Parachute has made more profits, and then the effective tax rate has therefore gone up to 25.5% for this quarter. Maybe by the next 2 quarters, you'll see it a shade lower. It might come down to about 24%, but won't perhaps go all the way down to 22% as we had thought it might be at the beginning of the year. So that is also accounting for some of the difference. It's all actually below the EBITDA margin line.
Thanks, Mr. Deshpande.
So operationally, we think we're doing okay and we're making our margins.
Great. Congratulations then. Thanks very much for joining us and giving us your perspective on Marico's business. We'll take a break on that note, wrap up markets at lunch. But coming up next is the F&O show with Ajay.